What in the world? Oh, I see what's going on. All right. All right. Testing one, two, one, two. My bad. I had a little feedback going on. It was crazy over here. But yo, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. This video was one that was interesting because it was one that I honestly didn't hear anything about. Somebody sent it to me and said essentially, yo, this is crazy. Oh, is it still jacked up? No, yet. Let me know, sis, how it's looking. It looked like it cleared up on my end. I don't know. Anybody? How's it looking? It's looking crazy over there. Testing one, two, three. How's it looking? Is it looking like extremely blurry or does it look normal? Can y'all let me know before I get started? I had a little struggle stream going on. So somebody let me know in the comments because I don't want to start talking because I'm going to narrate all of these facts. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Okay, okay. All right. All right. Well, I'm gonna just it looked good on my end, so I'm gonna just go ahead and go with it. And hopefully hopefully everything straightened up and it fixes itself. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. But yeah, I don't know. It's clearly not on my end. All right. Long story short, someone sent me this video. It was something I didn't hear about, but I thought it was interesting. Anytime uh uh, judge is deleted, that's kind of a big deal, but it normally doesn't happen in the judge's chambers, which is actually crazy. So I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about it's only two defenses that this defendant is going to have. Let's go ahead and dive in. As always, here over here we talk attorney reactions to current news, trending events, finance content, all of that stuff in between. Licensed attorney, not legal advice, just for infotainment uh, purposes. Hey, always find a professional in your area. Let's go ahead and get into it. So this takes place, and I actually took notes because I wanted to be prepared. Let me go and put the image up real quick because I'm not going to show the video because it was too much to edit out. I just didn't feel like doing it. But I'm gonna go ahead. Let me see. Let's see the best way to do it. We're gonna put this image up on the screen right there, and we're gonna leave it like that. There's still image as I talk about what happened, and then we're gonna talk into some legal nuances that are going on. Long story short, this occurred in Whitesburg. It's a town located in Ledger County, Kentucky. Really small area, a really rural area. If it's a small area in general, rural area in general, the people in the criminal justice system, the courthouse, are going to be even smaller. So in a place like this, it's not uncommon for family members to be on opposing sides of the bench. It's just a small, close knit community, and anytime you have that, the people inside the courthouse are going to know everybody. They're going to be friends, colleagues, and that's just kind of how the game goes. Uh, when I was a defense attorney, and it wasn't a super small county, but it was a decent sized county. But as a public defender, the prosecutors, the judges, it wasn't uncommon to go to the same events, to go to lunch together, like have people over at your house to watch fights. That's just kind of how it goes because it's a small, close knit community. So that does play a role. The judge in this case is Judge Kevin Mullins. The defendant in this case is County Sheriff Mickey Steins. Now, both of these people have a history of just coming up through the ranks in the criminal justice system. Both persons have been working at the courthouse each for an excess of 10 years. So they're very familiar with each other. Everyone knows each other. And from all accounts, it looked like it looked like they all have or they had a very friendly, cordial relationship. It's not uncommon, according to witnesses, that these two would be out at lunch together or out at functions together. So that's just kind of the background of what we got here. Now, I know y'all asking why would the sheriff end up shooting the judge in the judge's chamber? Let me just start before I even go to this to the facts of what happened or what allegedly happened. Is it weird for? I think it's weird. I'm gonna start out by saying I think it's weird, but do, is it weird for an adult to have their friends teenage child's phone number in their phone? I just think it's weird. I don't think it's an odd thing. I just don't think that that's normally how it's done. I don't know. Y'all let me know. I'm thinking, and I don't got like I got like one, two, I got like three. I'm trying to think how many people who aren't my kids, who teenagers, who phone numbers I have. One, two, three. That's about it. Two cousins and another young lady who's pretty much like my daughter. I've known her since she was this tall. Her and my daughter's a best friend. But it's kind of odd, I think. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's where I'm from. But generally, friends, like if me and you are friend, it would be a little weird for me to have like your teenage daughter phone number in my phone just kind of already saved, unless it's like a one-off instance or something like that. So let's keep that in mind. Okay, all right, I felt better. I felt better because I thought it was just me. Shout out to everybody in the chat too. Pretty ass Kevin said it is weird. I agree completely, and we're actually going to talk about that because that's going to be a big part. If it's one call, okay, multiple calls, creepy. I do agree with that, and we definitely going to talk about that, sis. I appreciate you always keeping everybody updated, especially me. Y'all lead attorney, and I'm just the co-counsel on these things. So the long story short of what happened in this case, earlier in the day, the judge and the sheriff were out at lunch. They were having a good time, no issues. There was a witness who actually stated that he heard during the lunch the judge tell the sheriff, "Is this something that we're going to have to meet about in private, like one on one in my chambers?" But that was it. Outside of that, it didn't seem like anything outside of the normal was happening. Well, later on in the day, at some point, how we get this video footage, the sheriff is trying to contact his daughter. And before we dive in, there's a specific reason why we actually have this video footage because the sheriff at issue, Mickey Steins, he's the subject of a lot of litigation revolving around SA. If you don't know what SA is, it's the Diddy Bill Cosby type of crimes. Now he isn't necessarily the individual defendant, but he is named as a defendant in several SA lawsuits because he is the sheriff. So because he's the sheriff, if one of his deputies do something or alleged to have done something wrong, they're going to name that individual deputy and they're going to name him in his capacity as sheriff since he is the employer of the deputy that's at issue. So the specific reason why they have cameras here is because previously there was litigation revolving around an SA that occurred where a deputy was essentially engaging in illegal contact and unlawful contact with a woman who was in custody in the judge's chamber. Since that gentleman has actually been convicted of that offense, but as a fail safe, they said, you know what, let's go ahead and secure the perimeter. Let's put in this chambers, we're going to put a camera. So if something like this happens, we have some type of visual so we can see what's going on, see the truthfulness of it. So that's how we actually got this footage, is because of a previous litigation, a previous crime that a deputy was charged and convicted with, and they put the cameras in as a fail-safe. Now, just from looking at this image, no audio, just visual, no audio, and just from looking at this image, even before we get into detail, you could tell this is a really, really rural county just by how the background looked. Like a brick wall. At some point, you can see the judge is actually in his office with a cigarette in his hand. If he's smoking a cigarette, and the video is easy to find if y'all just go to YouTube and Google it. But you can tell this is a very rural office. Um, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they probably don't have any real legitimate security measures. Most judges that I've seen, federal, state level court, when they're in their judge's chamber and when they're sitting on the bench in court, there's actually a button, like a panic button, that they can hit. And when they hit that button, sheriffs are supposed to come and swoop into the office or swoop to the bench immediately because they know that some nonsense is going on. But just looking at how this office is, the layout, this isn't the finest of establishments for a jurist on the bench. So it's quite possible that they don't have any of that. Now, I am going to zoom in because we can't see it in this still image, but when you go back and actually watch the video, I'm going to show you all something that I want you to pay attention to. Let me go ahead and pull the image up. Yeah, that's what the media outlets are saying. Just because of it was, I seen at least two incidents where something like that occurred, and that was the reason for the cameras. But let me zoom in on this image because I noticed something in the video, and again, I'm not gonna show the video, but when you all go and Google it, I want y'all to look on this desk. You can see this is the sheriff, this is the judge on the ground. On the desk, you see a couple of book bags, and right here where the cursor is on the screen is the thing that is the subject of all of the facts in this case. It's the judge's phone. Now, this phone is interesting because right now you see it's nothing, but it's actually face up. So if someone call, you can actually see that a call is coming in. And during this interaction, you can actually see that this phone lights up and someone is calling this phone. Now that's going to be interesting when the facts come out as we dive into it. But I wanted to just give y'all, when you looking at the video, because I know y'all gonna want to look at the video. Keep your eye on that phone. Maybe zoom into it because that phone is a paramount piece of evidence, or maybe a paramount piece of evidence. Let me do it. I'll do it that way. All right. So, long story short, sheriff could not reach his daughter. Was unable to reach his daughter. He tried calling her. She didn't return his call. The daughter is a minor under the age of majority, which is 18. And so at some point, this sheriff decides, well, hey, judge, buddy, or pal, let me make a call from your phone to my daughter. And he makes a call from the judge's phone. Now, here where the facts are, I don't know. And let me know, Maui. You said that they were able to confirm this. If you could send me a link, send me the link because I wasn't able to find it. But the sheriff is alleging that when he made the call to his daughter, the judge had his daughter's number already in his phone. And because of that language, I'm assuming he's saying that his daughter was already a contact. Imagine you borrow your friend's phone. This is what the defendant is alleging. You borrow your friend's phone to make a call, like, yo, let me hit my daughter up real quick. And when you put the number in, you see her name pop up, or even worse, you see her name, you see a name popped up, but it's saved as something else. So this is what the defendant is alleged to have happened. Now, this image that I kind of put it still on, I believe this is the second shot. But according to reports, there were four shots that were fired. You'll see initially the sheriff was standing near right in front of this door on the right hand side of the screen in this area when he fired his first shot. The judge does exactly what any normal person would do. He has his hand up in the universal this is the universal pose for I surrender, I'm not a threat. The sheriff fires a shot. The judge is trying to crawl under the desk. The sheriff is manipulating around the desk. He continues. Let me see. So he continues to fire shots. At one point, after the third shot, the sheriff walks to the door as if he's leaving, but he looks down and he sees the judge is still moving. So he kind of bends back in. He comes back in, fires another shot. Now the judge is deleted. He's out of the picture, and this guy is taken into custody. Now, he did make some interesting statements once he was taken into custody. Let me go ahead and pull those up real quick. He did make some, we'll hide that. How will we want to do it? Let's go here. Let's go here. I don't think we need that anymore. We can go and close that out. Now, he did make some interesting statements. Okay. The first statement he made when he was taken into custody was they are trying to kidnap my wife and kid. I don't even know what that means, but that's the statement that law enforcement said he made. The next statement that he made while he was being taken into custody were treat me fair. And I was like, sir, you are a white man in a rural area. You're going to probably get the fairest treatment that ever. Because, whoo, oh man, if a brother would have shot a judge, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. But this guy looked like he got taken into custody. He came back, he pled not guilty. Why did he plead not guilty? It looks like they're trying to charge with first degree murder. Now, generally, first degree murder denotes life in prison. But in this particular case in Kentucky, because the person who was deleted is a public official, i.e., a government employee, that means that capital punishment is absolutely on the table. Now, there are a couple of interesting arguments that purport to be are being made here. Um, Argument number one, or I guess question number one is why in the world would he actually just plead not guilty? Like someone was like, well, why didn't like because this is direct evidence. This isn't circumstantial where you got a fingerprint or a witness who saw something. This is actually direct evidence. We have it on video. So y'all should already know he only has a few defenses that we're going to talk about. Now, I want to pull up a statement from his attorney. Give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and cue up this statement from his attorney. I thought I already had it. I thought I already had it queued up, but apparently I did. You know what? I'm not going to dive too far into it. But essentially, the statement that the attorney said is hey, we have more facts. Currently, both phones, or maybe previously, because it may be some new information according to somebody in the chat, but both phones were taken to make images of to kind of see what was on the phones, what were the communications that were going back and forth. Now, defense number one, based on statements from the attorney, he only got two. Both of them involve mental health capacity and all those. Defense number one that he's looking to potentially argue is going to be that the good old fashioned insanity defense. That this guy was going through so many things in his life that he didn't have a clear mind at the time that this was happening. Now, whatever his defense is, nothing is going to get this guy off the hook. But when you're talking about capital punishment for first degree deletion compared to manslaughter, 10 to 20 years, it's a big ass difference. Like a manslaughter conviction in this case is actually a win, considering I would actually count this as a win if I was the defense attorney, if this guy gets a manslaughter conviction, considering the nature of what we have. So the first argument is that his overall mental capacity was in such a terrible state, was in such a weakened state that he was unaware what he was doing. He just was not in his right mind. And to prove this, they're going to have to look at what was going on in his life in a totality. I think that's the absolute part of the reason is just what we talked about before. Not all the time, but a lot of the witnesses already testified that earlier in the day, everything appeared to be fine. They talked about previous conduct that was seen during the week. They asked other attorneys who were in the courthouse. Everybody generally agreed that nothing seemed out of the ordinary with these two. Let's see. Mm. Hey, I don't know if you could necessarily look insane because I've seen some normal looking people do some real ill stuff. But that's argument number one. I think that's just not a great argument because they're gonna have to look at what was going on in his life even before they got to that point. And you know, if you don't have, I'm not gonna say it's always required, but to determine a person's mental capacity, you have to have a lot of historical events that are just building up, whether it's a trauma, whether it's a reaction that's outside of what you would call a societal norm. You would have to see all of these things built up over a period of time. So when we get to this one particular instance, your argument that he wasn't in his right mind, he was insane at the time, could build it. That's just going to be tough to prove. So the argument that they're going with is heat of passion. Now they call it different stuff in different jurisdictions. Long story short, heat of passion is when events occur and you believe at the time those events occur that the action you're taking is one something that's justified, and your reaction was so immediate where you didn't have time to think. The prime example would be this is like a hypothetical they use in law school for a heat of passion crime. The hypothetical is after working a long shift at the post office, I come home from my long shift at the post office and I say, you know what, I'm gonna get off early and surprise the missus at the house. And when I come in early, you know, I hear a ruckus going on upstairs, and I'm like, man, what's going on? Now, coming from work, let's say in this scenario, I'm a law abiding Second Amendment carrying citizen. So just like Ron Osley, there's something going on upstairs because I know nobody else live here. So I got to get closer to the stairwell. So I started to walk up the stairwell, and I hear some ruckus. I can't tell if it's mumbling or what. And I kick in the door. I'm like, man, what's going on? Boom, boom, boom. This is the prime scenario that they give you for heat of passion crime. I kick in the door and I see like my significant other hog-tied, hog-tied with a rope on and a mask over her head. And then I see another guy in there who's just like butter booty ball naked, and he holding like I don't know, let's say like a baseball bat or something crazy, right? And if I come in and see that, I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy got into the house and he's taking advantage of my significant other. So that's immediately what I think. As soon as I seen it, I pull out my pistol and I go to work. Pop the guy. Is nothing. I pop the guy. We move out. That's an instance where you always see that normal scenario of, well, it was immediate. He thought that what he was doing was right at the time because he thought he was actually defending his significant other, even though the significant other could just be in some freaky ass role play. But that was my thought at the time. Or the other scenario is I come into the room and it ain't no role play going on. It is what it is, and I just snap and I shoot everybody in there. I shoot him, her, everybody catch a one. Everybody catch a hot one. That's another scenario where they'll argue heat of passion. Where those arguments fail is based on how much time lapsed between the observation of the incident and when the actual engagement of the killing occurs. If no, so I've seen the actual case where guy came home, same scenario, saw his significant other in there having an affair with someone else. He goes from the bedroom to the kitchen, gets a knife, comes back and starts to put in some handy dandy cutlery work. And he ends up having a terrible argument for heat of passion because when the courts looked at it, they said, no, there was a break in time from the events. Once you observed it, you didn't act immediately. You observed it, then you left out of the room to go to the kitchen, grab the specific knife you wanted to use, and come back. That break in time was a period of cooling off, if you will, where cooler heads could have prevailed. You had an opportunity to leave or opportunity to make a better judgment. So his argument here that the attorney is probably going to make is that it was a heat of passion. He made a call. He saw his daughter's number pop up in this guy's phone. He immediately lost it because he thought something else was going on, and he starts to let off some hot ones. Now the question is going to be, is another reason that argument will probably fail. We'll talk about, but the question is going to be, one, if that actually happened. Now they're doing images of the phone, but I think it's kind of obvious to identify if a person has someone's number in their phone as a contact. I know Sis said, let me roll up and see if I could find the comment right here. So it said they confirmed that it wasn't in his contacts. He had just called her. Now I will tell you though, that sounds like an absolute fail. Think about it. That sounds like an absolute fail for a heat of passion argument, which I would agree it is, because if your assertion is that, yo, this stuff was in his contacts, when I put her number in, it automatically popped up. Something's going on. My daughter's 16, 17. Nah, bro, that's not going to happen. But if they were able to confirm and that the number wasn't saved as a contact, it was only a call. If I'm his attorney and I get that information, I'm going to immediately pivot to the first defense, which I don't think is a good defense, but the insanity defense. Because if that is the case, he'll lose a significant portion of evidence that's going to be paramount to his heat of passion argument. And even if his heat of passion argument was correct, I think that that's still a difficult argument to make because let's give the defendant the benefit of the doubt in this scenario because I want everybody to understand what's going on. Let me see. Claiming insanity. Hey, that's going to be his only out. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I can't find where that is stated, but it said her number was on there. Because yeah, the articles I read were inconsistent. Because there's a difference between being a contact or your number being in the call log because somebody just made a call and they just losing their shit. So I wasn't able to gather which one it was. But let's give the benefit of the doubt to the defendant. Because I'm gonna tell you, I think the insanity argument is the much more difficult argument to prove because you have to prove that mental collapse, that behavior, that mental collapse, that not being in touch with reality. You have to prove that that all was present before the actual event occurred, and at the time the event occurred, you weren't in your right mind. That's just a lot of facts to prove that they probably won't have. But let's say his defense is correct, because I'm gonna show you what the prosecutor should argue. But let's say hypothetically, because we don't know for certain, hypothetically, let's say his daughter's phone number was in fact saved as a contact in the judge's phone. Now I know I'm telling y'all right now, if I was on that jury and it's actually saved as a contact on the judge's phone, I'm gonna be like, he did what? And y'all sure her number was saved on there? What was it saved as? I don't know if you want me on that jury because that's kind of tough. But let's say benefit of the doubt to the defendant. Let's say the contact was saved on the judge's phone. This guy engaged in 4 shots. Shot number one occurred was relatively some immediacy after he identified this. He engaged. Shot number two, we'll say it was immediate. Shot number three, let's give him the credit for shot number three that was immediate. Now, this is where it gets a little bit wild because if you all remember the image on the thumbnail, before the final shot was taken, the officer goes to the door as if he was leaving. I believe he actually opened up the door and proceeded to go out of the door until he sees movement and then he comes back. Well, remember, the heat of passion argument is based on the amount of time that lapsed. And there's no, the court hasn't articulated that it has to be 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. But if I'm the prosecutor, even if that is the case, even if the judge did have the contact on the phone, what my argument would be is that as the prosecution, I would argue the first 3 shots were because in order for it to be heat of passion, if I'm a prosecutor, heat of passion defense, you got to prove it for each shot. That's how I look at it. You got to prove it for each shot. And the one that's going to be an issue is that fourth shot because you fired 3 shots, then you disengage the defendant, you the decedent. Sorry, you fired 3 shots, disengaged, proceeded to walk out of the door. Then you saw him moving again. Then you came back to re-engage. And not only when he re-engaged, he didn't just leave out. He didn't go to the door, open it, see him, then turn and start shooting. Because the judge is trying to maneuver. You'll see in the video, the judge is trying to crawl under the desk. He goes to the door as if he's leaving, opens the door, about to take a step out, sees the judge moving, comes back, draws his gun, and he's holding it kind of at the ready, the high ready. He's up here with it. Doesn't take the shot, manipulates his way around the desk to try to get a better angle to shoot the judge. So if I'm the prosecution, I think the prosecution has a much stronger case. I think the insanity defense is just weak and it's not going to fly. I think the heat of passion defense is a much better defense, but I think there's facts to actually overcome that as a defense. Now, and it all lapses, it all hangs on that lapse of time between shot number three and shot number four. Between shot number three and shot number four, there was a clear disengagement. There was a clear changing in your mind of okay, I did what I needed to do. Now I can leave. And then it went from leaving to going back on target to manipulating your body in a position to get a better shot. That is the argument that I would make is where the first degree murder occurred. Up until that point, the judge was still alive. It could have been something else, but it wasn't a first degree deletion. I would argue that the shot that is issued is shot number four. That's where I think they should go. Now, facts are going to change if the judge didn't have this in his phone number and this guy's just fucking batshit crazy. If this guy's just batshit crazy and the forensics of the device show that he didn't have this number saved, there was no previous contact, because they're going to get the records. They're going to get all the phone records from the phone company to see if this judge ever called that number. If none of that is there, his defense attorney, the defendant's attorney, needs to pivot immediately from heat of passion, jump right back to the insanity defense, and actually that would be uh, an, an an ounce of evidence that I would use to further substantiate that he wasn't in his right mind. He didn't know what was on the phone. When they arrested him, he said they are trying to kidnap my wife and daughter. Who the hell is his wife and kids? Like who? That's the argument they're going to have to make. I think all of those arguments are absolutely terrible arguments. Now, a lot of people typically how the whole insanity thing works. This is just how it works from a legal standpoint. A client is charged with something, you talk with your client, and most times an insanity defense is is one of two things. It's either you actually talk with the client and the client is fucking batshit crazy. You like, yo, I don't even think he's aware of what the legal proceedings are. So we need a forensic evaluation of that guy. So it's either going to be initiated by the attorney, initiated by the court, or in some instances, they're going to look at the facts and the attorney is going to initiate it not on how the defendant act in their interactions as attorney and client, but they're going to initiate it based on how the defendant purportedly act during the alleged violation of the law that's being asserted against the defendant. So considering that, typically what will happen is I have a client, I'm a defense attorney, I go to court, I say, Your Honor, at this time, we are going to do a forensic evaluation of Mr. John Smith. I've had a chance to communicate with Mr. John Smith. If I'm going full blown insanity, my first statement is going to be I don't think Mr. John Smith does not appear to be aware of the legal process. For instance, Judge, he has have vague, little to no understanding of what he's being charged with. He has no understanding of the legal procedure that's going on. And then sometimes the judge will ask the defendant questions. They'll be like, Mr. Smith, do you know who I am? I'm the judge in this case, and it's my job to do this, this, and this. Are you familiar with what I do as a judge? What your attorney does? The judge will ask all of these questions, and it is stupid because the judge asked those questions, and I'm sure it goes like this in this really rural court. But the judge asked those questions because that's kind of their little analysis that they're doing to say, you know what, we're going to substantiate what defense counsel is saying, and we're going to request a forensic evaluation. Normally, there's a psychiatric staff. I'm not sure if it's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but they have an individual who's actually paid by the, well, sometimes, well, either way, they're paid by the state. It's either a state scheduled representative who looks at the defendant to make the determination as to capacity, or sometimes it could be an agency that's contracted with the state to do forensic evaluations. And based on those forensic evaluations, it can go up to levels like, yo, he doesn't have the capacity to proceed to trial. That forensic evaluation can lead to, yes, this guy is batshit crazy, definitely insane. But that is what's going on with this case. I'm gonna just be honest and just looking at the facts as we have them now. And again, there's no trial, and there's a few other things to note here. Um, the video footage, it was about, I would say, 12 seconds of footage that were released. So y'all are gonna watch that and be like, "Yo, if they had cameras in here, can we see the entire events prior to this 12 seconds?" That was the first thing that I thought. I was like, yo, why aren't they showing us more? Well, there are a couple reasons that they aren't showing more. And I know this offhand as a Freedom of Information Act and information law quasi expert. Typically, when there's any law enforcement interaction where a shooting occurs and there's like body camera footage or internal footage, like inside of this judge's chamber, the the law enforcement agency, so here the sheriff office decides what they are going to release. Are we going to release all of the footage? Are we going to release some of the footage? What are we going to redact from this footage? The sheriff office makes the decision what they're going to release. Now, some people are of the me, I'm one of those attorneys where I wouldn't want the agency to release anything. But sometimes agencies on their own, through their press channels, not a Freedom of Information Act because it's not an actual request for information, but through their press public relation channels, the sheriff's office may have a policy where we'll release footage of use of force incidents or things like this within 24, 48 hours, something to that effect. So the footage was probably released by the sheriff's office. It was probably released because they have a policy that mandates that they release this type of footage within a certain amount of time period. Now, the benefit to that for the sheriff's office is they get to control the narrative. If I release the footage of something that went on in my shop and I'm the chief of police, I get to control the narrative. So the footage I release, I can release it in the context that I want to release it. I can release it in full with no redactions. I can release only the 27 minutes that are pertinent to what's at issue. I can release the 27 minutes that are pertinent at issue. And before you get to that footage, I could actually provide a narrative so that you have a narrative of what went on before you see that. It allows law enforcement to really set the narrative if they actually release the footage on their own unilaterally. So that's what's going on with the footage. They strategically decided to only release what was at issue. They have the footage before and they have the footage after, but that footage didn't come out. I'm sure it's going to come out at trial, though. I feel 100% positive that it's going to come out at trial. Was the wife number in this phone? They were about to get a divorce for abuse, and the judge was helping the wife and daughter. They were cordial at the restaurant before they went to the judge's chamber. Now, that's interesting, DJ Dave. I appreciate that comment. That would make the situation a lot. That I'll be honest, like I'm not sure the I'm not sure the accuracy of that. I'll have to look because I didn't see it in anything I found open source. But if what you say was in fact true, hey, that's something that would I mean, as a defense attorney, I would love for that to be the case. I'm like, yo, you the ops, you the ops, you working to take my family away. And I'm gonna be honest, that actually makes the statement that he said they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid. That actually would provide some type of sense to why would he make a statement like that. So if that's accurate, that would one, it would actually if that is true, I think that would it depends. Um it depends because both sides would use that. Now that I think about it. If I'm the defense attorney and I'm representing the sheriff with this information, let's say this information that's on the screen is accurate. If this information is on the screen and the judge was actually helping the wife and daughter facilitate a divorce, one, I think that's probably some type of fucking conflict of interest, considering the relationship the judge has with uh I don't know. It's I'm not sure how they do their criminal and family court. Normally in small places like this, they rotate. So it would depend how the judge's interaction in this relationship came up. But both sides would actually try to use this to their advantage. If I'm the defense attorney, I'm like, yo, this dude wasn't in his right mind. If they were going through a divorce, if there was instability at the home, all of that supports insanity defense, saying that his mental faculties had issues prior to this incident and they just were building up, building up, building up, building up. So that's how the defense would use those facts. The prosecution is going to say the other thing. The prosecution is going to use the exact inverse. The prosecution is going to say, you know what, this sheriff was aware that him and his wife were over. He was aware that the judge knew both him and his wife, and he found out that the judge was giving his wife some information on how to navigate the judicial system or something to that effect. And in a fit of rage, he planned and premeditated. He knew he was going to have his firearm on him. He knew he was going to have access to the judge's chambers. So both sides are going to try to use that to bolster their argument. If that fact on the screen is in fact true, let's say hypothetically that fact on this is true. I actually think that that fact supports an insanity defense more than it would support prosecution for first degree murder. And the only reason I would say that is because if it was planned and premeditated, this is just me looking at it from a common sense standpoint, just looking back. And this is I'm trying to not take my lawyer hat off and just put on a hat. If I was a juror looking at this and this fact was true, does this fact help prove that he's probably not in his right mind when this happened, or does this prove that this was actually premeditated and planned? If it was premeditated and planned, if that's the way that you lean in your thinking, the thing that throws a monkey wrench in that for me is that if it was premeditated and planned, so it was strategic, why would he why would he take his shots in the judge's chamber when he's aware that the entire place is monitored by camera because he was subject of the litigation? I mean, he wasn't the actual defendant in that case, but he was a named defendant as an employer. He knows there's cameras in there. He knows the cameras are in there for security reasons, why they're there, they're going to access them. He knows what the policy is for releasing the footage. So if it was premeditated, it wouldn't make sense to me to plan it, premeditate everything, but to do it on camera. Most times, not all the time, but and the other thing that wouldn't make sense is he turned himself in afterwards. Most times, not all the time, but most times, when a person premeditates something, sorry, my sinus is bothering me, so I had to take a pause. When a person premeditates something, 99.9% of the time, the reason for the premeditation is the planet. And they're planning it because they don't want to get caught. They want to plan it so they can get away with it. If you're premeditating planning this murder and you're taking the steps and having the wherewithal to plan everything out, like, oh, I'm gonna do it on this date at this time, but you don't take into consideration that it's on camera. You don't take into consideration that all of these facts that you know to be true. I think that if this fact on the screen is actually accurate, I think it would pivot towards, hey, his mental state wasn't in the right place because he was dealing with these family issues. Maybe they had a abusive relationship. Maybe that abusive relationship cut both ways, and police records support that. I mean, those are just all the things that everyone is going to look at. Yeah, it does depend on the state. I took a look at this state, and this state is a capital punishment state. So I did see because he's a public official, uh, he could be looking at a capital punishment. It's not called heat of passion in this state. They called it severe emotional, some other language, like he was in emotional distraught or something to that effect. But it looks like the reduction that they're going for is a manslaughter reduction. But that's just kind of what's going on. What I'm going to do is I'm not a trial watcher, YouTuber. I just don't got the bandwidth. I like you. We were having a conversation about the longest trial that someone has had. The longest trial I had was 3 weeks. So like I can't watch somebody else. Me doing a trial for 3 weeks is long. I damn sure don't want to watch somebody else do a trial that's going to be that long. But I will circle back and keep tabs on this story because it's quite interesting. And I want to see. Let me see if I could find real quick. Let me see if I can find real quick if they substantiated something with regard to the judge's file. Let's see. Let's see. Let me see if I can find a video real quick. Real quick. I think I could find one where they delete things out. Let me see. I want to find one. If we can't find it, we'll do a pause before we get to the meat and potatoes of it. Let me see if I could. Let me see. I think I could find one where it's blurred out. All right, just bear with me. Give me a second because I want to pull this video up so y'all can see it. I just want to. They do a terrible job. They do a terrible job. Let me see. I want to see how much of this I could give y'all before YouTube shuts me down. Okay, they take a. That's cool. They take a pause. All right, let's go ahead and pull this video up. We're not gonna be able to go through the whole thing, but we're gonna pull this up. Then I got one more topic I want to talk about because I thought it was fun and I want one and I want to know what y'all theory is on it. All right, let's go ahead and pull it up. We'll take a pause for the cause at the appropriate time when they pause it. But this is generally what's going on. But I want y'all to go find the full video because the phone rings as all of this is happening. I think it rings between shot 2 and 3. And that's important because you can see it ringing, but you can't make out what number or who the caller is. But I'm like, hey, who's that calling? Is this somebody calling because they heard a gunshot? Is this the sheriff's daughter calling back because she received a call from this unidentified number? Or is she calling back because she received a call from this known number because her and the judge know each other? There's so many fucking questions.
We're learning new information tonight about what exactly went down in the Letcher County courthouse that left a Kentucky judge dead. Video evidence from the trial shows.
All right, so right now he in the universal posture of, yo, I don't want no smoke. Open palms, universal I surrender posture.
Former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins point his gun directly.
All right, and right here where they paused it literally right here before the first shot went off. So I'm gonna pause it right here, and we're just gonna kind of keep it here. But y'all have to go back and watch that video so y'all can get the full context of what was going on. And I want y'all to pay attention to in between shots 2 and 3 when the phone rings because we don't know who is that calling. Is that the daughter calling back or somebody calling back because they heard shots? And then I want y'all to pay attention to the lapse in time between shots 3 and 4 because at the end of shot 3, remember he's leaving the office and then he comes back to put in some more work. So y'all let me know what y'all think. Now I'll tell y'all, I'm gonna just be honest. I think he's gonna eat a first degree deletion conviction on this. I mean, like, I don't care. I don't care. Let's say, like I said, let's say the judge did have his daughter's number saved in there. He had it saved under some crazy name. Let's give him all the benefit of the doubt. The argument that the prosecutor is going to make is that the heat of passion expired during that gap in time between the third shot and the fourth shot. Whether it was 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it was, that immediacy that you claimed was there for shot 1, 2, 3. Shot 3, you were leaving. Then you pivoted back around when you saw the guy standing there. At that point in time, that's my argument if I'm the prosecutor. Shot number 4 is the premeditated murder. That's the shot that was the fatal shot. That's the shot that occurred after you had a break in time to actually think about what you were doing because you disengaged and was leaving. And so I think that's how it's going to go. I just don't see him. Yeah, I think he's a done deal. He's a wrap. Now, before we get out of here, I want to pull up one more video, and I want y'all to tell me, am I crazy or I think this is a great idea. I want one. I probably won't get one no time soon. But somebody sent me this, and I was like, "This is the shit." I was really excited about it. Let me pull this up real quick. All right, so let me pull up this video right quick. This is a much lighter video. I probably should have started off with the lighter video before I got into the deletion and mayhem. But I like to give y'all what y'all want. Then if y'all want to hang around for the extras, okay? I'm actually read a text message on my phone. Have you all seen the new inventions that Tesla released? Okay, one was a self-driving cab. Elon pulled up and he rolled out in this self-driving cab. It didn't have a steering wheel or anything. It just he got in the passenger seat. It just drove off. I was like, that's cool. That's dope. But have y'all seen? I gotta show y'all this because this is. I thought this was absolutely amazing. Most people are telling me that I'm crazy, but I don't think I'm crazy. I think that this is
Everything we've
absolutely
developed.
genius. Let me see. Let's go ahead. Have y'all seen this Tesla robot? This Tesla robot is absolutely amazing, and I don't know.
For
I
our
want one,
cars,
kind of not.
the batteries, power electronics.
Okay, so hold on. This is him getting in
Everything we've developed.
his little car, but let me see if I can find the video with just the interaction.
Everything we've
with
developed
the robot.
for our car, but with arms and legs instead of a robot with wheels.
Y'all see that shit?
And we've made a lot of progress with the Optimus. Dramatically,
Y'all wouldn't get one of those?
less than a car, but fundamentally at scale.
Like,
Take us a
like real talk. This you can have this robot walk your dog, fold your clothes, do your laundry. And he said he could watch your children, which is crazy work. Like, but they had displayed this robot doing all sorts of things. And so I'm gonna let this play the rest of the way through so y'all can see it. It's playing games with the kids and everything. And y'all let me know at any point would you ever buy something like this? I know it's giving Black Mirror, YouTube, Netflix series, but watch this and let me know what y'all think.
minute to get to the long term, but
That shit do look
fundamentally
creepy.
at scale. The Optimus robot, you should be able to buy an Optimus robot for I think $20,000 to $30,000 long.
$20,000 to $30,000 for a robot that can water your plants and do all the shit that you really don't want to do. Go out and cut the grass.
So and what can it do? It'll be able to do anything you want. So it can be a teacher, babysit your kids. It can walk your dog, mow your lawn, get the groceries, just be your friend, serve drinks, whatever you can think of.
That shit crazy.
It will do.
I want one, but I don't.
And yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I think this will be the biggest product ever of any kind.
That's crazy as hell. Would y'all wouldn't get one of those? Yeah, $20,000 to $30,000 for a robot that like I literally just paid to have my fence redone because it was terrible. I could have been like, hey, robot, hey, I could have got the supplies and me and the robot out there. Well, hell, the robot be out there putting it together and I supervise. Like $20,000, $20,000 to $30,000. Now I don't know about the child care part. I don't know about the child care part. The child care part is kind of wild. Nah, I want one. I want one. I don't want this second generation one. Give me like generation number 5. But $20,000. Just think about it. Yeah, how much y'all think daycare costs? Would you let this robot actually watch your child for you? That's crazy. It sounds crazy with me even saying it. I know I probably wouldn't, but my kids aren't young, so they'll need a robot to watch them. But fiscally, let's talk about the money real quick. To pay $20,000 for a robot that can watch your child for you, okay? Do y'all know how much daycare costs for a newborn? Like, this was many moons ago. I paid more at daycare than what my mortgage cost was. So I want to say it was like when I was paying daycare back in the day, I would want to say it was, and it was expensive. I thought it was expensive at the time. I was in the Carolinas. I think I was paying like five something a week. That was back in like 2007 or 8. So now people probably paying $800, $900 a week. $900 a week or a one-time $20,000 fee to let this robot watch your kids. I don't I don't know. I mean, fiscally, I don't know. I think I can see why. Let's just think about it. I used to do healthcare fraud prosecution and prosecute nurses who didn't take care of their patients in healthcare funded facilities. These robots could actually probably provide better care and more consistent care than a lot of people who are in nursing homes and senior centers and who have, like, really, I don't know. I mean, I think it's dope. Will it ever glitch and turn on you? Other than that, it seems cool for certain things like helping to fold clothes and clean the house. That's funny. My word, my word, this is nuts. I don't know. I would have to try it out. Now, I'm gonna read to y'all the text message conversation that I had with somebody. Let me see if I can find this text message before I get off here. All right, let's see. Let me see. Where will we talk about it? No work product. Okay. All right. So I sent the message. I was like, yo, 20K for a Tesla robot that does chores around the house. That's a good deal. Then somebody replied, laughing emoji, now you just wasted money. And I was like, yo, it could walk your dog, watch your kids, do the dishes. As long as it doesn't kill me, I'm good. Their response was, there's a show like that where the robot kills the mom so she can take her place in the family. I forgot what it's called. My response was, wow, that's crazy. Unless Elon can make a robot that's super thick, that's super thick and real life looking, that's probably not going to be a problem. And she said that's basically what the robot was in this movie. And then she sent me the link for this movie. But I don't know. I think that they're onto something here. I think we inherently are lazy as a population. I got glasses that I can answer the phone with, or I can look at a bird. I actually got a bird watching book. I'm gonna tell you, I'm a nerd. I actually have a bird watching book, but it's tough because to see a bird, then like, okay, I'm already kind of blind. Then I got to go through this book in the Northeast region and turn and find it. But I can just look at the bird, ask the glasses what kind of bird it is. It tells me. Then I turn directly to that page in the book. So I feel like we always are looking for ways to do less. So I don't know. I think it's dope. I don't know if I would buy one, but I would love to try one out. If they had like, hey, we want to give this robot to a certain group of people for like a week, I would do it. But I would probably tell my family to leave for that week. Cause I mean, if the robot do glitch, it ain't no need in all of us dying, right? I don't know. I think it's a, I think it's a dope idea, but hey, hey, if you all log in one day to see a video and you see a robot sitting here with me as my co-host, don't be surprised. It's counterintuitive, but it's safer than a human being driving. I don't know. That's hey, shout out to you. You love shout out to the bird watchers out there. The problem with automated driving, and y'all know I haven't got a Tesla, but I want one. I just got my driveway and yard done. Literally, like they finished it today. So at some point I'll get it whenever. But the problem with like when you automate everything, especially with something like driving, having automated driving and self-driving cars really only works if every car on the road is a self-driving car. But because then they can all communicate. But when you got self-driving cars along with independent human driving, it's always gonna be fucking accidents on the road. That's just what it is. But I don't know. Y'all let me know. $20,000 for a Tesla robot it'll pay for itself in daycare cost alone in like 5 years, maybe 3 years. Honestly, I don't know. I think it's dope. Yo, that's it for this video. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Y'all have a good one. Enjoy the long weekend. If you got Monday off, go Commanders. Enjoy football. Y'all take care. Love y'all. Be safe. Peace.